Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In the previous video, we learnt about how to be spiritual. As usual, the link to the previous video as well as the book under study, The Philosophy of the Teachings of Islam, is given in the description below. In this video, we will learn about how to experience true spirituality. So let's get started.
اسمعوا صوت السماء جاء المسيح
The promised Messiah ﷺ explains that just as with every objective in life we are required to take certain steps and make certain sacrifices and efforts, the same applies for acquiring true spirituality. He explains that every human action is followed by a corresponding action from God Almighty Himself. For example, if one were to swallow poison, then the corresponding divine action would be that this person would encounter death. His Holiness states in this regard, all the inevitable consequences of our actions that have been appointed by God Almighty under the law of nature are all God's actions, inasmuch as He is the ultimate cause of all causes. Similarly, if someone were to behave in a certain way which attracts an infectious disease, the divine action followed by this would be that he would be afflicted with that disease. As such, there is an inevitable result for every action of ours, and that result is the act of God Almighty. In terms of spirituality, we must remember the same law applies. His Holiness states, and as for those who strive in our path, we will surely guide them in our ways. So when they deviated from the right course, Allah caused their hearts to deviate. This means that in consequence of the full striving of a person in seeking God, the inevitable act of God is to guide him along the ways that lead to Him. As a contrast, it is said, when they deviated from the right course and did not desire to tread along the straight path, the divine action followed in that their hearts were made perverse. To illustrate this even more clearly, it is said, but whoso is blind in this world will be blind in the hereafter, and even more astray from the way. That is, he who remains blind in this life will be blind in the hereafter also, and even more astray. This is an indication that the virtuous see God in this very life, and they behold their true beloved in this world. The purport of this verse is that the foundation of the heavenly life is laid in this very world, and that the root of hellish blindness is also the vile and blind life of this world. His Holiness then explains that true spirituality in fact is developed through righteous deeds, that it is like a garden which is irrigated by the rivers of righteous action, meaning that true morals induce a true spiritual condition when done purely for the sake of God Almighty, having firm faith in Him. His Holiness states in this regard, and give glad tidings to those who believe and do good works, that for them are gardens beneath which flow streams. That is, give glad tidings to those who believe and work righteousness, that for them there are gardens beneath which rivers flow. In this verse, God Almighty has described faith as a garden beneath which rivers flow, and has thus indicated that faith is related to righteous action as a garden is related to the water of the river or stream. As a garden cannot flourish without water, faith cannot survive without righteous action. If there is faith, but no righteous action, the faith is vain. And if there are actions but not faith, the actions are mere show or display. The reality of the Islamic paradise is that it is a reflection of the faith and actions of a person in this life and is not something that will be bestowed upon a person from outside. A person's paradise is developed inside him, and a person's paradise is his faith and his righteous actions, the delight of which begins to be tasted in this very life, and one perceives the hidden gardens and streams of faith and righteous action which will become concretely manifest in the hereafter. The same applies to the concept of hell. Just like heaven, hell is only a manifestation of one's negative spiritual state, which has been described in the Holy Quran through various metaphors and allegories. So, how do we develop spirituality according to Islam? It is in fact through the very essence of Islam, which is to surrender one's self and all of one's faculties to the will of God and to simultaneously supplicate to Him with the most excellent prayer which is taught in the opening chapter of the Holy Quran, which I mentioned in the previous lesson. His Holiness explains, "This is the only method that the law of nature has appointed for man's highest exaltation and for his meeting the divine. Those alone find God who enter into the spiritual fire of Islam and continue occupied with the supplication set out in Surah Fatiha. Islam is the blazing fire that burns up our life and, consuming our false deities, presents the sacrifice of our life and our property and our honor to our holy God. Entering it, we drink the water of a new life, and all our spiritual faculties establish such a relationship with God as subsists between kindred. A fire leaps from our inside like lightning, and another fire descends upon us from above. By the meeting of these two flames, all our passions and our love for anything beside God are totally consumed, and we become dead vis-a-vis our previous life. This condition is named Islam in the Holy Quran. Through our complete surrender to the will of God, our passions are killed, and through supplication, we acquire new life." His Holiness then explains that the door to true spirituality, i.e., a living connection with God, is as wide open today as it was in the past. Before this, it requires us to have the courage to do everything for the love of God Almighty. His Holiness explains, "The doors of access to this stage are as wide open today as they were at any time, and divine grace still bestows this bounty upon those who seek it, as He did before. But this is not achieved by the mere exercise of the tongue, and this door is not opened by vain talk and boasts. There are many who seek, but there are few who find. Why is that so? It is because this stage demands true earnestness and true sacrifice. Mere words mean nothing in this context. To step faithfully onto the fire from which other people run away is the first requirement of this path. Boasts avail nothing. What is needed is practical zeal and earnestness. In this context, God the Glorious has said, 'When my servants inquire from thee concerning me, tell them I am close. I respond to the call of the supplicant when he calls on me. So should they seek me through their supplications and have firm faith in me, that they may be rightly guided.'" Bringing us to the end of today's lesson. In the next video, we will begin to learn the answer to the second question posed by this book, inshallah, i.e., what is the state of man after death? As usual, I've linked the previous video as well as the book under study, The Philosophy of the Teachings of Islam, in the description below. Make sure to click the bell icon to be notified of future episodes, and please do subscribe, like and share this video so we can enable as many people as possible to benefit from the treasures left behind by the promised Messiah alayhi salatu wasalam. Until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.